Good evening and welcome back. I'm here this evening with Dr. Nduom of the Progressive People's Party. Now, we wanted to talk to you about education. You talk about a holistic approach to education. Can you explain to the Ghanaian voter what that is?
I'm glad we talk about education, because if there's something, you can see my physical demeanor changes, because it is a great equalizer. Without education, where would I be? An ordinary boy from Elmina. My father was a teacher, my mother was a teacher. Education was my ticket, and I want every Ghanaian child to have a minimum senior high school education. And indeed, our national constitution, the framers of our constitution were right when they said we must have free, compulsory education at the basics level, and then we make it progressively free at the senior and at the tertiary level. Now, unfortunately, the administrations that have come have not made even basic education free, nor has it been compulsory, which is really, really unfortunate, because that means we leave many of our girls uneducated, many of the disabled, we leave them uneducated. And if you take the past 10 years, 1.5 million of our children failed the BECE examinations, 14, 15 years old, running around the country, doing what? We're in a competitive global world. You can't have the majority of your children hanging around with a junior high school education. So we are saying that if we want to industrialize, if we want to come in the modern age, then government must take upon itself the responsibility, one that other governments, responsible ones, in the whole world, whether it's the Irish, the Koreans, the Americans, they made education from kindergarten.
But it seems like in this year's election race, all political parties kind of agree on this. So how is your program different from the others?
Okay, we are not agreeing.
And you also comment on that in 2012, actually over 90% of students did pass the BECE.
Well, we'll get to that. But I'm not agreeing with what the others are saying. And what are they saying? John Mahama says expanding access. What does he mean? 6 classroom blocks without toilet facilities? No libraries? What is he talking about? Okay? And what about the compulsory element?
Yes, you want to have some kind of education police to make sure that children
and I'll
are
explain, because it is an important component.
So is that really not spending taxpayers' money when not everybody is even going to school?
Well, let's make it very clear. I'm saying he says expanding access, okay, without the compulsory element, without the free access, because just over a week ago, he was now realizing that education at the basic school level is neither free nor compulsory. Just over a week ago. And now Kufuor, what is he talking about? Free SHS. My sister, if you take 100 children through from kindergarten, only 10 of them get to senior high school. That's an elitist policy. You mean only 10 out of 100 will benefit? We are talking about all children.
So I'll ask him 100. About that when he comes here. But now I want to ask what you and PPP
We're
are
saying
doing.
From kindergarten all the way through to senior high school, every child will go. It will be free. It will be compulsory. It will be continuous. No BECE examination. You take the final exam.
And I think you have also made the point that we need to have kitchens, we need to have teachers, housing, we need to have libraries. But all of that sounds wonderful, but where will the money come from? Your program seems then to be the biggest one that is being proposed.
And we have put on the table that it will cost around 5.5 billion Ghana cedis over a 5-year period to build these complete compounds, have housing for the teachers, have the facilities out there, change the curriculum so that it's geared towards getting a job at the end. So it's a complete program. Now, let's ask ourselves, and the reason why we talk about corruption robs this country, wastes, corruption, incompetence, a little over 3 billion Ghana cedis every year. And look, this year, 750 million Ghana cedis spent to pay settlement debts, judgment debts, as a result of incompetence, as a result of trying to punish your political opponents who are contractors. You eliminate these things alone, and you have enough money to fund this education program we are talking about. And we are saying if we only have 1 Ghana cedi left in Ghana, we'll put it into education, because that is what will fuel our economy. Not the gold, not the timber, not the oil. education.
But you mentioned it will cost 5.5 billion,
Absolutely.
and then I heard something about 3 billion being spent maybe through corruption. It's difficult to get an exact number, I'm guessing.
No, I'm saying that there's about 3 billion we're wasting.
Yes, but there's still a gap there. So
no, that's 3 billion every year that we are wasting. But at the same time, we are also not collecting revenues that are due to the state. Let me use myself as an example. Where I live, the sort of property tax I pay, it's laughable. Okay, it's irrelevant. And they don't even come to collect it. We have to go and say, come and collect. That is incompetence. That is why we keep saying competent, incorruptible leadership will put Ghana's money on the table. And we will use it, number one, to fund free, compulsory, continuous education from kindergarten to the end of high school. It can be done. I want the can-do people to be with us. We will get it done.
So I want to talk about transparency and fighting corruption, because you have made big points about it in your campaign. You've made a promise, for instance, to disclose sources of your own campaign funding when filing officially as a presidential candidate. Have you now done that?
Well, I have written to the Ghana Revenue Authority so that the IRS will give me certified true copies of all the income tax returns that I've filed since I came back to this country. And I've sent the letter to them. They tell me they are working on it. As soon as they give it to me, because I have my copies, but I want certified true copies. Number two, I've written to the Auditor General so that all of the asset declarations that I made, that they can give me, once again, certified true copies. And I have gone through the process to even declare my assets now on paper, ready. Our National Treasurer has also prepared our sources of campaign funding, so that when these documents are received, which I hope in the next few days I get them from these two authorities, we will hold a press conference and hold them up for Ghanaians to see that there's nothing here. There's transparency. If I want to lead this country...
And media will get copies of these documents.
It is something, because I want to do this even when I become president, because I want to change the constitutional provision that exempts the president from paying tax. It doesn't make any sense. Where is the moral authority? When the president of the land doesn't pay tax, how is he or she going to go to the ordinary person and say, you pay tax, when he doesn't pay tax? I will do it, and we will make it public for everybody. I've also said that my health as a president should be of national concern. So I am going to write to the Ministry of Health. Show me a health institution. Let me go and get checked. I will make the results public. Because when you become president...
And I've heard that you have challenged the other parties to do the same. But will they do it?
Absolutely. Well, that is up to them. If you want to lead, you lead with moral authority. You don't say that watch what I say or do what I say. I want them to say, do as I do. And I want Ghanaians to do as I am doing. So we can all be transparent.
You have also promised to pass the Right to Information Bill in Parliament. Now, why is that important?
Well, it is important because people hide things in government. Corruption. People hide documents. I've been in government before, so I know what it is like. People put things in pieces of paper and they ask you to come and find it. We want us to remove the barrier to information, because the information in the Ministry of Finance doesn't belong to the minister. It belongs to us. It should be made available to everybody. It is important that we pass that law, and I have said, you give me 6 months and I become a president, within 6 months it gets passed, just as the spousal succession law, the bill that is also there, that will make sure it gets passed, because it is important. And we also have the Disability Act, which is there, but nobody wants to implement it.
Let's stay on transparency for a while. So now we have talked about declaring your assets as a presidential candidate, and also declaring where you get money to run for president. The second thing was passing the Right to Information Bill. Will that be enough to fight corruption in Ghana?
It will not be enough. It will only be enough if from the president on down we have enforcement. We have enforcement. The other thing that I want to do that will help with this is that I want to separate the office of Attorney General from that of the Minister of Justice. Because, you know, today we have an independent body, which is the Electoral Commission. I want to have the Office of Attorney General to become independent, like that of the EC, so that when something does wrong, when the president does something wrong, that person can say, they can't sack me, they can't do anything to me, I will hold him to book, hold him to account. But what do we see? You've heard about the former Attorney General, Mr. Amidu, and what he's been talking about, that he advised, don't do this, don't do that, and where did it land him? Outside of government, sacked. Okay? We don't want that to happen again. It is when you do that, then people do collusion.
But I think many governments before have come and told us that they will fight corruption. Why will you succeed where they have failed?
Because I will act. I will act. And people know me. They know I act. They know I do as I say. And because we want to put certain elements there. If I am declaring my assets, if I am declaring my tax returns, anybody who works for me in government, they will declare theirs. They wouldn't have any choice. If someone goes to steal, they will be taken care of by the law. That is, again, why I want the independence for the office of the Attorney General, so that politics doesn't come in. See, if you do all of these things that we're now saying, they are not new. People have known about them. Some even promised them during campaigns and refuse to do them.
So if you stumble upon corruption, let's say in your own group of people, maybe from one of your ministers or something like that, how would you punish it?
Well, the person will have to go. That is, so if there's an independent Attorney General there, absolutely, that's where they will go. That's where there will not be any protection of any type that is out there. Because it is important that we have institutions that have the independence to act. And it's interesting enough, you hear people, once they become president, when some things are pointed out, they say, prove it. Well, it is not just up to the person to prove it. There are state institutions out there that should have interest in pursuing those items and letting us know what is going on. I mean, today...
Can you be a bit specific what could really help? Because I think what you're sitting there and saying right now, we have heard it before, so we need to know some more specifics to know.
Well, you also have to know the backgrounds of the people. Nobody has come to tell you what I am saying to you, that here are my assets. This is where I've earned my income. This is the tax that I've paid. There have been all manner of people saying things against me here and there. I'm finally saying, here it is. Okay? Now, if you have something to say about it, you too, come and put yours on the table. And let's make sure that we are all clean. If there's any issue there, for me, it starts from there. Leadership. We make choices. I have made my choice. It's leadership. You see, when you have that kind of leadership that people can trust, and people will say, this one, if you go and mess around, you will be sorry.
Okay, so you have also said in your manifesto that you want to, and I quote, give Parliament the facilities and resources needed to fight corruption. What do you mean there? Can you specify to Ghanaians?
Absolutely. You know, I've been a member of Parliament before, and I suffered through it. I wanted to have an office in Accra. I couldn't get one. I had to use my private office. And then I wanted one at the Assembly. I had to go and fight to get an office and put somebody there, and I paid that person myself. Now, you can't do that in a democracy and think that you're going to get good performance from the people. So we will resource them, both at home and in Accra.
And how about their paychecks? Will we see rises in paychecks
for me, the
parliamentarians
paycheck,
under PPP?
No, absolutely not. The paycheck, for me, is not the most important thing. It's the facilities. We must have research assistants. We must give them the facilities, the offices, and the things that they need, the technology that they need to do their work. That's number one. Because this job, you go there, it's hopefully it's for a short period of time. You go to the stage, you act your part. And when it is done, you go home, and someone else comes to the stage and act their part. That is what it should be. And so while the people are there...
But for the resources, the first thing that is always approved in Parliament seems to be the car loan. So there are some resources readily available already.
But the wrong ones that attract sometimes the wrong people to go there.
So it's the end of the car loan.
I am saying that I have no interest in talking about a car loan or a housing loan or any of those things. I want those things that people need to work, because we want people to go there and work. And also, one of the things that doesn't make the members of Parliament work well is that we have ministers of state sitting in Parliament as if they are members of Parliament.
I think we'll get back to that in just a moment. So now we'll go for a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right